Hello, friends, and welcome into NBA Now. I am Tom Downey. Alongside me is Jimmy Dembuya Crowther. Jimmy, got a lot to get to today. We're going to focus in on some free agency and some trade talks as I merge those two words together. Free agency and trade buzz here around the NBA. We'll focus in on the trade stuff first. In particular, the Chris Paul trade rumors are back. There are a couple different reports that have come out, namely that from The Athletic that the Rockets have had preliminary trade talks with teams about a potential Chris Paul trade. And then in addition to that, Stephen A. Smith says that Chris Paul wants to be traded, and then GM Daryl Morey says, nope, both of those are not true.
Yeah, I mean, this Chris Paul stuff might not ever die down because, look, the guy is just not a winning point guard anymore. I mean, he's going to win you a couple games. He's going to help you win some games. Maybe he'll find a couple open shots for guys. He's still a good passer. He can't defend because point guards in today's NBA are much bigger than he is, and he's lost a step. I mean, he's 34 years old, and then on top of all that, he's overpaid.
When Morey says, and Morey said this in an interview with a local ESPN station out in Houston, says that they're not going to field calls on Chris Paul if they want to add one more star. That is a bold-faced lie. Yep. Because the only way to, of course they're going to listen to any trade talks. Every GM listens to any trade call that gets sent their way. They just might hang up kind of quickly on it. And then the only way to, in reality, one of the only ways in reality, I should say, to get another star is to move Chris Paul. It's very, very difficult for the Rockets to find a way to add another superstar player if it's not by getting rid of Chris Paul's contract, because he has so much left, and the Rockets don't have any cap flexibility beyond like exceptions and stuff.
Yeah, 3 years at, like it says right here, over $40 million per year. That's brutal. Absolutely ridiculous. And then you combine the fact that Chris Paul and James Harden can't get along because Chris Paul wants to coach James Harden and James Harden wants to play differently than Chris Paul does. There's a lot of issues there. James Harden is your MVP player, not this version of Chris Paul. Now, I mean, he didn't have a horrible year.
It's not like he's a bad player.
Right.
But you don't want to pay $40 million for 8 assists and 15 points per game.
No,
that's
not
not going to get the job done.
Plus, you add in a bunch of really bad defensive possessions from Chris Paul. I mean, he's just not the same. And on top of all that, you add the friction that he is apparently bringing to the team. I think Chris Paul is a point guard that just wears thin on his teammates.
I do want to make a point here about Chris Paul and he wants out. Stephen A. Smith said it was allergic to the Lakers, which they can't do it now because they made the deal for Anthony Davis. They cannot make the money side work out of it. Houston is now at a bit of a turning point of their future for their franchise. What should they do this season, Jimmy? Should they blow it up or stay the course? Type B for blow it up, S for stay the course.
I'm going to say stay the course for now because you still have an MVP guy in James Harden. Yes, he's 30 years old. I think Father Time will eventually come in, but not yet. They still have time with James Harden, but they do need to move Chris Paul. If that means blowing it up, then I guess so, but I'm going to say stay the course for now.
Because you've always been open to the Rockets kind of blowing it up more so.
I would like to see them blow it up.
Okay.
But if we're saying what they should do, I think they should stay the course.
Okay, that's fair. Now, Daryl Morey mentioned getting another star. One of those stars could be Jimmy Butler. Now, the report from ESPN, namely Stephen A. Smith, so, grain of salt, I guess, there, says that Harden and Jimmy Butler have been communicating tremendously so, in your best Stephen A. Smith voice there. Now, Butler is from the Houston area. However, Butler's not going to take a vet min deal to come to Houston. He wants to get paid. In order to actually make that happen, Houston has to trade Chris Paul and one of Eric Gordon or Clint Capella. That's the only way if you're going to give Jimmy Butler a true max contract, which I don't know why Butler would take anything less than a max contract at this point in his NBA career, which makes it very, very difficult to actually pull off.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, step number one is find a trade partner for Chris Paul. I can't think of a team off the top of my head that is just willing to give up assets to acquire CP3. And then I think finding a deal for Clint Capella is a lot easier, but it's getting equal value in return for him that's difficult.
And that's the tough part there. And I think you might end up seeing a scenario where maybe you would try, as difficult as this is, attach Chris Paul and Clint Capella in whatever way you could, or maybe you ship out Clint Capella, whatever assets you get back, you then attach to Chris Paul, and then your roster looks something like this, where you have James Harden. I guess we'll stick with Eric Gordon. Then you have PJ Tucker, and then Nene's your center. Maybe you find a vet min center at that point in free agency, which I think is easier to do than finding an Eric Gordon type shooting guard caliber. Because maybe get like a Danny Green for the mid-level, but that feels unlikely there.
You know who makes a lot of sense in Houston next season? DeAndre Jordan. From Houston, almost got bought out by that New York Knicks team. Now, Defensive-wise, he is not the defensive player of the year that he used to be.
He seemed willing to take a lesser role in New York, so maybe he'll take less money for a bigger role now.
Exactly. He sat behind Mitchell Robinson, kind of helped that guy develop. So if you throw a DeAndre Jordan in there just as a lob threat and maybe every once in a while gets you some defensive help, because I'll tell you what, I watched a lot of DeAndre Jordan last season, and the man does not play help or weak side defense when he's down low. He is not the defensive player of the year, Jordan, but he is still a lob threat, and he's still going to finish at a high rate. And now he can shoot free throws. He's like a 76% free throw shooter last season.
All right, so folks, let us know in the comment section what team you will think will sign Jimmy Butler. Let us know in the chat there. What's your prediction? I think he stays with Philadelphia.
I do too, but if you want to say a team that could be a wild card, quote unquote, the Brooklyn Nets. Once they get Kyrie Irving,
that's fair.
Once they get Kyrie Irving, they're going to want to bring on another star, and he makes too much sense.
We're going to get to Kyrie in a second here, but first, let's get an update here on Kawhi Leonard. The Lakers are still going to make a run at signing him. I saw it in the chat before the show even started here about how he was going to stick with Toronto there. You will see, I think, Leonard take visits, because, I mean, why wouldn't you also?
Right.
Like, yes, I would love to get wined and dined here, but... And then, just stick in Toronto. Like, well, if you're a free agent, why wouldn't you be courted by others out there? And there have been the connections there, but I do think for a Raptors team that just won the NBA Finals, how do you leave that?
You don't. I mean, you legitimately cannot leave that team. I don't want to see him leave this team. As an NBA fan, I love Kawhi Leonard in Toronto. I love that he helped them bring a championship to a franchise. And we saw him at the parade today. He was back on his fun guy stuff. He looked
where
like
he just is zoned out the entire time.
And I loved it, man. I hope he sticks there, because I will not be able to cheer for Kawhi Leonard if he goes to a team like LA.
All right, so this is what the Lakers lineup could look like if they sign Kawhi. These are the players available. So Kawhi, AD, LeBron, and Kuzma probably make some sense there. Isaac Bonga will put on there because, there's nobody else on the roster.
Alex Caruso to the rescue at point guard for the Lakers.
Yeah, so I don't know what their path would be. You'd probably just invest in cheap veteran point guards. But if you get Kawhi, you do it.
Right, and actually, as we're recording this, report came out just reported by Brad Turner. He said that they do want to bring Rajon Rondo back. They like that.
Yes.
Anthony Davis and him have already played together.
I actually think that's a good idea, frankly.
Yeah, and LeBron and Rondo have already played together. And look, the guy's not going to be signing for more than the mid-level exception, I would suppose.
And that's for Kawhi overall, per Chris Carter, who does have some ties to the Kawhi agency and all that kind of stuff. He says these are the 5 teams that Leonard will meet with in alphabetical order, not order of likelihood there. Brooklyn, the Clippers, the Lakers, the Knicks, and the Raptors. So, frankly, no surprises there. And I think in reality, Toronto is still the heavy, heavy favorite on that front.
Yeah, and if he does leave, I think the Clippers are the heavy, heavy favorite to land him. But leaving is just the unlikely scenario in this situation as of right now, in my opinion.
So Jimmy and I both picking the Raptors to re-sign Kawhi Leonard, but let us know in the chat where you guys think Kawhi will play next season. If you're smart, you can take a cop-out answer and just put in LA. You don't have to clarify if you mean the LA Clippers or the LA Lakers, so let us know in the chat where you think Kawhi will play next season. Then we'll move over now to Kyrie Irving and the Boston Celtics. Now, The Athletic reports that sources close to LeBron, which I think is a big caveat here in this discussion, thinks that there's still a chance of the Cavs duo getting back together out in LA. Meanwhile, other reports from outside of LeBron's camp say, no, he's going to Brooklyn.
Yeah, I mean, this report came out from the Boston Herald just last week that he was set to sign with the Brooklyn Nets. And then all of a sudden Anthony Davis happens, and it's just a domino effect. It's going to change the whole landscape of free agency in general. I still give the Nets the edge here.
Me too.
But a Kyrie-LeBron tandem doesn't seem that out of the blue anymore.
Which, if you had told me that even 7 months ago, I'd have been like,
right,
you are an insane human being. It's never happening again.
Absolutely. But if the Lakers do land him, they become a real threat. I think they're already a threat in the Western Conference and even the Western Conference Finals, of course. But if they land Kyrie Irving, that starting five becomes a lot more dangerous because they actually have someone to run the show besides just LeBron James.
And we'll throw Wagner in there as the center, I guess, for the Lakers. Because, again, it's you got Wagner, too. Like, there aren't enough bodies right now on this Lakers roster. Of course, they'll sign more players, but it gets a little weird to start projecting 5 different free agency signings for the Lakers here.
Right.
So that's the note on Kyrie Irving. Again, I agree with you. I think in the end we end up seeing him go to the Brooklyn Nets, and then it becomes, well, what does Brooklyn do in addition to Kyrie Irving?
Right, because just Kyrie plus the same roster that they had with D'Angelo Russell there, it gets you maybe 2, maybe 3 more wins with Kyrie instead of D'Angelo Russell. So we'll see what Brooklyn can do.
All right, folks. Make sure you guys are subscribed to us here on YouTube, youtube.com/chatsportstv. That's the link. You can just hit the big red button, though, on your screen because you're watching right now on YouTube. Jimmy, we will be live for every NBA draft pick this year, and spoiler alert, we'll have it before the major networks do as well.
Yeah, we're also going to have every little trade that happens before the major networks do, because draft night is nuts. From picks 1 all the way down to 60, and all the trades in between, we're going to have them right here on Chat
Picks
Sports.
1, 2, 3, those feel pretty set in stone. Beyond that,
so.
I think utter chaos. So make sure you're subscribed here on Chat Sports. Another trade note here for you guys. Mike Conley and the Utah Jazz. Per The Athletic, the Grizzlies are moving forward with their Mike Conley trade talks, and maybe not a surprise here, the Utah Jazz are the frontrunners to land Mike Conley. Remember, they almost got him at the trade deadline. I think that makes a lot of sense.
They nearly did get him. I mean, I'm still surprised that Mike Conley wasn't moved earlier. After
Me too.
Marc Gasol was gone, which was really weird because he almost went to Charlotte, and then he ended up on the Toronto Raptors and won a championship there. I thought Mike Conley had 1.5 feet out the door in Memphis, but the Utah Jazz and Mike Conley is honestly a match made in heaven, if you ask me.
So here's a potential trade that we threw together a couple shows ago here for Memphis and Utah. Grayson Allen to give Utah some more off-guard help or off-point help there. Jay Crowder, Derek Favors make work from a monetary perspective, which is a big factor in this trade. Like, because they didn't do it at the deadline, they can't include like a Ricky Rubio anymore. That's not how the salary doesn't match like that. A 2020 first-round pick, so Utah still has this year's first and can either go get another stretch forward to help them out there, or they could sign someone for the MLE potentially.
Yeah, and I like this return for Memphis, I guess. I mean,
solid haul. And you could always flip Crowder and Favors too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And this makes sense. You know, I still think. I mean, Grayson Allen, I think, had the second highest scoring game of a rookie last season. He went out and dropped 45 out of nowhere. So he's still a nice young piece. Mike Conley's not exactly what he was anymore, but he's still, what, a 21 point per game scorer in Memphis?
He was still very good, and I think a little bit of it was that, someone had to score for that team. There weren't very many scorers on that roster, and I'm sure he would not put up 20 points per game in Utah, but he'd certainly be a key contributor for a team that we saw was really good last year, trying to take that next step forward there. Let's move on to some more rumors. This one around Julius Randle and the Knicks. Of course, Randle coming off the fantastic year in perhaps the most obvious move of NBA free agency. Randle opted out of his $9 million player option to go get, I think, at least double on the open market in terms of this offseason. Now the reports out of New York from the New York Post is that after the Knicks have missed on Anthony Davis and missed on Zion and missed on multiple other players, Julius Randle could be one of their fallback targets, which I actually think it makes a lot of sense for New York. They do need a 4. I think Randle would fit really well in that role, and I know he's not the superstar Durant Leonard or Durant Kyrie combo Knicks wanted, but you could do a lot worse than Randle.
Yeah, I mean, he's only 24 years old, so all of a sudden, if you get these guys plus an RJ Barrett at 3, and then you go
just
RJ.
Maybe you pull out Trier and put him at the 3, or knock him off the bench, something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you run a young core of Smith Jr., RJ Barrett, Kevin Knox, Randle, and even Mitchell Robinson could be a cornerstone piece for a really, really good team in the future. I like it for the Knicks, but obviously it is not their first priority. But if they do end up with them, they get a really solid guy who had a breakout year this past season, 19.9 points per game with New Orleans, 9.3 rebounds. He is a monster on the board. I mean, he's just going to go as hard as he can after every single rebound. His defense actually wasn't that impressive, but he did show that he could shoot from beyond the three-point arc at 34.4%. I love Julius Randle, one of my all-time favorite guys in the NBA right now. I'll always cheer for him. And we'll see where he ends up.
All right, folks, let us know in the comment section, who will the Knicks sign in free agency? I see some comments there about Tobias Harris. I think also a very strong fit for what the Knicks are looking for at that 4 position. Let us know in the chat there, who will the Knicks sign in free agency? In the meantime, we'll move over to the Golden State Warriors, where maybe this shouldn't be a surprise. It certainly was not to me, but Klay Thompson is going to get a max contract from the Golden State Warriors, which, of course.
Yeah.
They had to do that, right?
Sorry.
Even after the injury.
Sorry, Laker fans. I mean, we all know that the Lakers felt like they would at least have a shot or at least a sit-down meeting with them, but I think he'll be at dinner with the Warriors on June 30th, and then he'll sign on the dotted line on, I guess, technically July 6th or whatever when he can sign. But he'll get the max from the Warriors, and as he should. This is a guy that has been a cornerstone piece of their franchise, and in all reality could very well be the second best player on this team in just a couple of years when he returns from his injury.
Meanwhile, Kevin Durant also going to get a max offer from the Warriors. Now, not as obvious as Thompson re-signing with Golden State. Durant's got a choice here. Does he want to take more money and more years as he recovers from that injury? Or does he still want to try and go to a new destination, which seemed like a foregone conclusion? Now there's a little bit more doubt in there.
Yeah, I mean, if they're willing to offer a max contract, Kevin Durant is at least going to listen. He's at least going to go have a meeting with them, and he owes them that. I mean, they won championships together with Kevin Durant there, and in all reality, he put his heart out on the line. So I don't think Warriors fans will be mad when/if he leaves, but offering up a max contract
feels like a likely outcome there in the end.
It really does. A max contract, though, you still got to offer it up to a top 5 player in the league.
All right, more free agency talk here. How about the Celtics keeping Al Horford? They are discussing a deal that would feature Horford actually opting out of his $30 million deal, which he has until only a couple days to actually make that decision here. And then he would re-sign for less money this year, but would get 2 more years tacked onto the deal. So that classic move of, I'm going to take less money, but I'm going to get more long-term security. That's guaranteeing myself more for sure.
Yeah, I like it for both sides, Al Horford and the Boston Celtics. Now, Al Horford, I think he wants some stability. He's not a guy that's going to go out and chase rings or chase money or anything like that. And if you bring him back, this is still a top-tier team in the Eastern Conference without Kyrie Irving. Now, we have Marcus Smart in here at the starting point guard position, but if they bring back restricted free agent Terry Rozier,
then he slides in.
He could very well fit in there. And then you got Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. And Jason Tatum is a guy that they wouldn't even trade for Anthony Davis. Next year, expect him to take an even bigger step forward. Gordon Hayward, if he can get healthy.
That's the key thing.
Yeah.
He has to step up.
He still has to step up. I mean, 15.7 points per game is great, but you can't ride this thing of, oh my gosh, Jason Tatum's only 20 years old forever. Eventually, he's going to get older. He's got to step up. Hayward, going to be hopefully 100% next season. I expect big things out of him. And then you bring back Horford.
And he's still a reliable stretch 5 type of player. He's not a true 5, not quite a true 4, kind of that hybrid type player there. There have been a little bit of trade rumors around Al Horford, namely with the Rockets about a potential Clint Capella swap. We'll see what happens there, but the update from Boston was that they are discussing a possible extension there. Of course, that came before the Kyrie Irving likely to leave the Nets drama, so we'll see what actually ends up happening in Boston. There is quite a bit of potential for change this season out with the Celtics. Let's move to the Chicago Bulls here. How about Patrick Beverley in Chicago? There is interest from both sides here on a deal. I think it makes a lot of sense. There's a point guard need, and of course, Beverley happens to be from Chicago.
And he's a veteran. I mean, the Bulls have no vets whatsoever. I mean, I guess you can count Zach LaVine as a veteran if you want to, but he's still a young guy who's never played with an established point guard like Patrick Beverley. So you bring Patrick Beverley in, who is one of the most vocal players I've seen on social media about his free agency. He replies to just about anyone, and the most replies I've seen him reply to are people that have photoshopped him into a Bulls jersey.
He said that's his favorite because he's from Chicago and he loves Chicago.
Yeah, so you almost feel like it's a foregone conclusion if they offer him a good enough amount of money.
Yeah.
And I do like the fit.
I think for the Bulls, they clearly need a point guard, and I think Beverley can be what they were hoping Chris Dunn was going to become.
Right.
Beverly's not a 10-point-a-night guy. He's certainly not even a 15-point guy either. But he does play really good defense. He plays smart basketball. And he's not going to be a massive assist machine, but he does play smart and knows how to operate well within an offense.
Yeah.
And with a team that has Otto Porter and Zach LaVine who tend to have the ball a lot and two big bigs, you don't need to have the ball a ton there.
Right, and your biggest concern with Patrick Beverley is that he has never played a full season. I mean, the guy is always hurt, it seems like, and you can't afford that if you're Chicago because you probably don't have any good backups. I mean, unless for some reason you slide Chris Dunn in there or Ryan Arcidiacono out of Villanova, I guess, could be a backup point
not a
guard,
great
but
option.
Not what you want. So if he can stay healthy, that's great. He doesn't have attitude problems with his teammates. He gets under the other team's skin, and you love that from your point guard.
Exactly.